came to say thank you, Lord, just for loving me. Alright, many times I do forget you, every need that you have met. Oh, thank you, Lord. I know you're showing me. You are there now, you're down and out. You're holding me. Your love is so amazing. Oh, it changed me. Say, so here I am with all I have. I raise my hands to worship you. I want to say thank you, Lord. Oh, thank you. Everything for who you are. Cover me and touch my heart. I want to say thank you. Can't anything but you saved me. Didn't have any hope at all. You gave me peace of mind, strength to carry on. I should have been the one to pay, but instead you took my place. Amazing grace, it's more than just a song. Even though I don't deserve your love for me, you let me on, and you showed me mercy. All right, you sing. Come on. Here I am, all I have. Raise my hands to worship you. I want to say thank you. Oh, thank you. Everything for who you are, cover me and touch my heart. I want to say thank you, yes, Lord. I want to say thank you. Oh, thank you. Lord, we thank you for the thank you. All that I can say, thank you for the love you gave. Here I am, with all I have. I raise my hands to worship you. I want to say thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, everything for who you are. Cover me and touch my heart. I want to say thank you. Thank you for everything you do in my life. Thank you for it. I want to say thank you. Oh, thank you, Lord. I want to say thank you. So very grateful. I want to say thank you. Thank you for the sun that shines on my face. I want to say thank you. Thank you for your sweet embrace. I want to say thank you. Come on, you sing this with me.
Noon pa man, malaki na ang naging bahagi ng mga kababaihan sa lipunang Pilipino. Kaisa sila sa malugdog na paghahangad ng kalayaan ng ating lahi. Kabilang sila sa paglinang ng ating makulay na sining at mayamang kultura. Kasali sila sa pagtataguyod ng mga adhikain ng kapwa mamamayan at sa pagtugon sa mga pangangailangan ng lipunan. Katuwang sila sa pagtuklas sa mga larangan ng agham at medisina. Kapanalig sila sa pagpapairal ng batas, karapatan at katarungan para sa lahat. Kabahagi sila sa paglilingkod sa bayan at sa pagpapanatili ng demokrasyang Pilipino. Sa paglipas ng panahon, hindi nagmaliw ang kanilang pag-ibig sa ating inang bayan. Mga kababayan, ito ang alay ng mga kababaihang Pilipino para sa bayan. Tumayo po tayong lahat at sabay-sabay nating awitin ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Ayaw magiging, pero sa sinagalan, ayaw na puso, sa Pilipoy buhay. Lupang pinilang, ulit ayaw magiging, sa pagluhin, di mo masisigil. Sa nagtatapos sa sinulang, sa langit o naman, ang ginatapos ang isang pambayang mahal. Ang isang lang matawag, tuwing ang pinanagiging, ang hiling na tawag, ang mayroon. Araw naman, pagyaman sila, ay natin sa ating mo. Ang ligaya naman ay magkakabit, ang mamatay ng nais sa'yo.
A bright and happy morning, everyone. Welcome to the Women's Business Council Philippines webinar. We are delighted that you have joined us this morning for this very interesting and helpful session on sourcing funds for recovery and survival, featuring the DBP program on inclusive lending for aspiring women entrepreneurs, or what we call ILAW. Before I proceed, though, a few reminders. The virtual GMM will be aired on the Women Biz PH Facebook Live for the next hour and a half. And for documentation purposes, the meeting will be recorded and will be made available for viewing on the Women Biz PH Facebook page after this webinar. Now, should you have any questions or comments about the discussions, you may post these on the Facebook Live chat box, and these will be addressed during the question and answer portion of this session. Given the time frame that we have, should there be any more questions, please do send it to the Women Biz PH Secretariat, care of Ms. Russell Rivera, at admin@womenbiz.ph, and we will send you a response. Please do share this session with your network so we can reach more women entrepreneurs who may benefit from it. And do please use the hashtag WomenBizPH. Do keep updated with the Women's Business Council Philippines by liking our Facebook page, Women Biz PH, and visiting our website at www.womenbiz.ph. And now let's move on to the actual topic. As an advocacy group, our goal in Women Biz PH has always been to find solutions to challenges that women generally face in the workplace in the conduct of their business, and to advocate possible government policies and solutions. Through events such as today's webinar, we are not only able to discuss important matters such as access to finance, we are also compelled to raise awareness about the women in business and commerce who are conquering it like never before. But as we all know, changes can happen overnight. After being declared as a pandemic by the World Health Organization, the coronavirus disease 2019, or what we now call COVID-19, poses a grave risk to the global and domestic markets and economies, where the spread of the virus has overwhelmed health systems and caused widespread social and economic disruption. Countries around the world, including non-government organizations and businesses, have adopted a series of measures in the hope to contain the virus. Government and central banks have likewise adjusted their monetary and fiscal policies to mitigate the economic impact. But we are all now in the midst of a crisis where the pandemic has translated into a massive effect on all economies. As we navigate and witness the slowdown of economic activities, we have now entered the next wave, a socio-economic and political crisis. According to an Asian Development Bank report, small and medium enterprises, or what we call SMEs, are the backbone of Asian economies. They make up 98% of all enterprises and 66% of the national labor force from 2007 to 2012. The COVID-19 pandemic and the associated economic crisis are posing huge challenges, raising many unknowns and imposing wrenching trade-offs. Both crises are global, but their impact are deeply local. Countries cannot pull this off on their own. The global crisis requires global solidarity and coordination. Here in our country, SMEs are defined as any enterprise with 10 up to 199 employees and or assets valued from 3 million pesos to 100 million pesos. SMEs and micro enterprises combined make up 99.6% of establishments in the country. In addition, according to Investing in Women, these small to medium enterprises are considered significant contributors to employment and economic growth and are associated with the formalization of a country's economy. As a result of this lockdown, the majority of these SMEs, mine as well, many of which are women-owned, women-led, have been affected greatly, if not drastically. In support of its advocacy for the women's economic empowerment, the Women's Business Council Philippines signed a memorandum of understanding with the Development Bank of the Philippines on November 24, 2014, to create a lending window called Inclusive Lending for Aspiring Women Entrepreneurs. This MOU allows the DBP to tap the expertise of Women Biz PH members, many of whom are successful businesswomen, for mentoring and advice. Women entrepreneurs are given priority in ILAW as it simplifies the lending procedures, creates a dedicated financing window, provides flexible collateral policies, and customizes repayment schedules. In other words, we're looking at it with a gender lens, focusing on women. In a very short while, we will learn how ILAW has helped nearly 400 women entrepreneurs engaged in 15 industries, and how you, our dear listeners, can also avail of this excellent opportunity for accessing finance for your business. So let's get straight to the point. I am very honored to introduce the project proponent for ILAW, as it was under her term that this woman-friendly lending program was established. Please welcome the Treasurer of the Women's Business Council Philippines Inc. and former Chairperson and President. She currently serves as Chairperson of the Philippine Women's Economic Network, as well as co-chairperson for the Philippine Business Coalition for Women Empowerment, and as advisor and past co-chairperson of the ASEAN Women Entrepreneurs Network, my friend and mentor, Miss Aurora Boots Guillotina Garcia. Hello, Boots. How are you this morning?
Well and good. Thank you very much for that, Monette. I think before we proceed, we do have an AVP to be shown from our friends from DBP. Can we please proceed to that first? A wax. Maybe in the meantime, I'm happy to note and share with the audience that we have at least about 150 plus registrants. And in addition to those who are attending via Facebook Live and stream through our Facebook page as well. So please show the AVP of DBP, Wax, please.
Itself as the country's premier institution for sustainable development. Complementing government efforts to usher in a golden age of infrastructure, DBP takes on an enhanced role as the Philippines Infrastructure Bank. DBP will help bridge the country's infrastructure gap. Increased funding and advisory services will be channeled to priority infrastructure projects. Through public-private partnerships at the national and local government levels, DBP will provide the financial muscle for government's Build, Build, Build program. Revving up for greater challenges ahead, DBP steps up its drive to influence growth nationwide. Mainstreaming more Filipinos into the development process and empowering all sectors to contribute to sustainable progress.
Thank you. That's a short background on DBP. I didn't want to begin with an apology, but I just have to share with the audience that unfortunately, DBP President Manny Arbosa was suddenly called to an emergency meeting. And in his absence, though, he has asked Paul Lazaro, SVP, Senior Vice President of DBP, to deliver his prepared message. So I would like to ask Paul to please speak on behalf of President Manny.
Okay. Thank you, Boots. Unfortunately, our president cannot make it this morning because of a urgent meeting. And so allow me to read his message. Business organization. And so, Chairperson Monette, ito Ralde Ham, members from the Philippine Women's Entrepreneur Network, graduates of PhilWem ECOP Entrepreneurship course, my colleagues in DBP, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. These are certainly uncommon times, and I salute Women Biz Philippines and your partner organizations for forging on for the persistence and in our country, many of whom have been radically distressed by the COVID with article that came out
It seems that we're having some internet issues with Paul.
GDP would rise up. Yep. Sorry. Am I
Hi, Paul. You're lagging a
coming
bit.
in now?
I think you're lagging a bit, Paul.
Can I continue?
Yes, please.
I continue now.
Yes,
Yes,
go ahead.
By the
Hello.
men around the world participate, boosting the global economy by up 5 trillion US dollars. This fact changes the way business and industry can operate and flourish. I believe that it is still too early in the game, so to speak, to see the ownership. We are right in the middle of it, and all the nuances
I think we're having
and
real bad.
consequences have yet to be revealed. But one thing is clear: both SME
I think we should come back and post a message.
is it okay?
Yes.
Okay?
Paul, we're having very difficult time hearing you because of the internet connection. We would like to just request a
Yeah.
copy of the speech, and we will be posting it on the Women Biz Facebook page,
Yes.
so that we can proceed. Perhaps Boots, we can go straight now into the next part of the program.
Provide you with the
Okay.
for President.
Wait, he hasn't heard you. Paul? Yes.
Yeah.
We will post the message of DBP President Herbosa later, after, so that everyone can read. Because I think we have some internet connections problem. Okay, I think.
So Boots, take over, please.
Well, these are the challenges of telecommunication that we have to deal with. But in any case, let it not affect the way our event today. Let me just make a few comments before we proceed to our presentation. Recovery, survival, business continuity. These are the themes which resonate in the minds of business owners and keep them awake at night as they navigate the impact of this pandemic. As mentioned by Monette, SMEs, which make up more than 90% of establishments, and many of which are women-owned or led, have been affected greatly, if not drastically. The buzzword nowadays is cash is king. Question is, where do I get the cash or the funds to recover, survive, or continue my business? So today we have our friends and partners from DBP to share with us some good news and advice which will benefit and support entrepreneurs in general and female entrepreneurs in particular. So our presentation today will be delivered by Ralen Verdadero, Program Development and Management 2 Department Lending Program Group of DBP, and the focal person for ILAW. Ralen has worked in the public sector for 25 years, with over 20 years in the banking and finance industry, working in various roles. Her experience gave her a keen mind for the development of programs responsive to the needs of the often unbanked or underserved agriculture and MISMI sector. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Ralen Verdadero. I'm sorry for that.
Good morning. Good morning. Again, we would like to thank the Women Biz Philippines for inviting us to be able to share with you the relevant programs of the Development Bank of the Philippines. To start with, can you please show my presentation, please? Please remove. Sorry, I just have to wear a mask for health reasons because I have people with me here today. Okay, thank you. Okay, the Development Bank of the Philippines, as the country's premier government financial institution, is dedicated to supporting the national government's key development programs. With more than 7 decades of committed advocacy, next slide, please. DBP continues to aggressively support infrastructure development and inclusive growth with the primary objective of providing banking services principally catering to the medium and long-term needs of agricultural and industrial enterprises with emphasis on small and medium-scale industries. Being the first Philippine bank to be ISO 14001 certified, we adhere to the principles of sustainable development. We continue to expand our reach by increasing the number of our bank network. To date, we have 129 branches, 11 extension offices, 22 lending centers, and around 836 on-site and off-site ATMs, serving both the bank and unbanked areas. DBP continues to work hand in hand with key players from both the private and public sectors in carrying out its various development programs and initiatives to spur progress and in vital sectors of the economy, infrastructure and logistics, social services and community development, environment, and micro, small, and medium enterprises. In July 2014, DBP drafted the Special Lending Program for Women through the help and assistance of the Women Biz Philippines. After 2 months of the same year, Inclusive Lending for Aspiring Women, or ILAW, was approved. On November 11, 2014, DBP signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Women Biz PH for the implementation of the ILAW program, which later on won a Merit Award from the ATFIAP. To provide you with a visual of DBP's portfolio for projects run by women, as of May 2020, we have a total of around 370 accounts with a total loan portfolio amount of 2.11 billion. The top 5 industries showed that in terms of number of accounts, manufacturing came first with 34.33%, followed by agriculture, 17.03%, manufacturing, 14.32%, human health is 10.54%, and construction at 8.11%. But in terms of absolute amount, agriculture is first at 36.28%, followed by the wholesale and retail at 24.57%, human health at 15.21%, construction at 8.58%, and manufacturing at 4.32%. So what does the chart tells us? That women are more inclined to venture into wholesale and retail trading business, which are more like micro and small, as well as agribusiness and health-related services. The portfolio on women is just a small portion of the total loan portfolio of the Development Bank of the Philippines. And absolutely, we want to do more. The inclusive lending for aspiring women entrepreneurs program is developed specifically to cater to women-owned and managed enterprises for the establishment of viable income-generating activities, with the primary objectives of empowering women by supporting women entrepreneurship, help small businesses grow beyond microcredit, create jobs and build local economies, and tap into network of women organizations and experts. Just to provide you the program features of our ILAW program, the eligible borrower under the ILAW are those single proprietorship, partnership, corporation, cooperative, duly licensed to engage in business with an asset size of 100 million and below. And of course, it has to be run by women. The loan purposes are working capital, fixed asset acquisition, confirmed purchase order or letter of credit financing, and franchise financing. Eligible projects are all types of MSMEs that are owned and are managed by women with confirmed market or purchase orders that will generate net monthly income of not less than 10,000 pesos. The interest rate is the prevailing market rate as of today. When I checked, it's around 5 to 7% per annum. The loan amount has a minimum of 300,000 and up to 90% of the total project cost for regular loan. For financing of PO or LC, it's up to 80% of cost of instrument and up to 70% of the purchase cost for franchise. For the repayment terms, it's based on enterprise development period but not to exceed 7 years. This is inclusive of 3 years maximum grace period payable based on business cash cycle. The grace period is normally, given to give time for the project or the business to kick off. That's why we're giving like a maximum of 3 years grace period. That's based on the cash flow of the project. Now, as we have mentioned, that we are now, experiencing a pandemic, and DBP is always finding ways on how we can be more responsive to the needs of the Filipino people. In difficult times, we have a program that can address some, if not all, of the immediate needs of our businesses. Through the response, DBP intends to provide rehabilitation financing support to DBP and non-DBP borrowers, both public and private institutions, who have been adversely affected by calamities and or events arising from the occurrence of such calamities. The primary objectives of this program is to support government efforts in rebuilding and expediting recovery process of calamity-stricken areas and to extend credit assistance for rehabilitation. To qualify for under the response, for existing borrower, one must be in good standing at the time the calamity occurred. For new borrowers, at least 1 year in operation prior to the calamity, and they must not have no adverse findings from banks and major suppliers. The program features are, for the eligible borrowers, public and or private institutions located and or operating in areas declared in a state of calamity by competent authority. Eligible purposes are working capital and fixed asset acquisition. Eligible projects will be project located in areas affected by calamities and or force majeure events as determined by appropriate authorities like the President of the Philippines, the LGUs, or the NDRMMC. The interest rate is fixed for 5 years based on 5-year BIBAL plus 1% spread. Fees and charges are all waived. The loanable amount provides up to 95% of actual need. The loan tenor for CAPEX projects, up to 10 years, inclusive of 3 years grace period, and for working capital, up to 5 years and 1 year grace period. Normally for working capital, we don't normally give a grace period, but under the response, we're providing a 1 year grace period with a maximum of 5 years repayment term. That would be all. Thank you. And again, have a good day. Thank you.
And thank you for listening to our presentation. So we'd like to move now into a panel discussion on to raise some questions which have actually been brought forward by registered participants as well as questions that we ourselves formulated in trying to elicit more information about what is available to women entrepreneurs. So to the extent he can, I would like to invite again Paul Lazaro, Senior Vice President of DBP, to join the panel. Paul is a solid banker with 39 years of experience in banking management in both the public and private sectors, 27 years of which with the DBP and 12 years in a private bank. I'd also like to recognize the presence, although she of a member of the board of directors of DBP and designated women's champion and gender champion in the board. Her name is Ms. Maria Lourdes Arcenas, who I believe is also in the meeting. And we'd just like to acknowledge her presence and for supporting this event as our partnership project. So let me start with some questions about ILAW. Can I be heard? Yes, thank you. While reviewing your current portfolio, I noted that the dominant industries for women borrowers are agriculture, wholesale and retail, and women health, but relatively lower in manufacturing, construction, which are considered non-traditional industries for women. Does ILAW have priority industries that you are supporting? Any one of you, Paul or Ralin, can respond to that question?
Sir Paul, would you like to answer the question, sir? I think Sir Paul is again having problems with his internet. But to answer your question, Ma'am Boots, no, actually there are no priority industries under the ILAW. We basically support all of the 15 industries. It's just so happened that it's higher, that the percentage of those that we finance is higher in health, being women, of course, and agriculture and, the micro and small under the wholesale and the retail trading business.
Okay, thank you for that. There are a lot of questions from startups as well. The question is, will you fund startups or can you fund startups? And if not immediately, at what point can a startup be funded by DBP?
Actually, ma'am, under the ILAW program, it's not startup business is not included under the program, but under the response, which I just mentioned a while, which I presented to you also, for us to be able to really help our countrymen in trying to get through the pandemic, we can actually finance a startup business, which is like 1 year. When you look at the regulation, startup business are those operating from 3 years below. So that's still a startup. But under the response, we can actually finance if the operations of the business is already 1 year.
Okay.
And there are some programs actually, ma'am, that we can use and tap, though not under the ILAW, that can support startup business.
Maybe we can talk about that a little bit more later.
Yes.
But just to clarify for the audience, that it's clear that under ILAW, you have to be operating for at least 3 years. But under the response program, you can be qualified if you are existing for at least 1 year. The question in the mind of many borrowers whenever they want to seek funding is this: how do I make my project and company bankable? Ralin. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am, come again. Please,
How
sorry.
do I make my project bankable if I'm a potential borrower from any of the lending programs? What are you looking for in
And
business?
what are the documentary requirements also?
Yes.
No?
Okay.
20%.
Well, the documentary requirements are actually basic. Okay, as long as the business is a legitimate business, of course you will have your business permit. You will have the necessary licenses to operate. That's the basic. Actually, that's the basic documentary requirements that you should have for you to be able to start a business. Now, for you to be bankable, for me, number one that I'm looking at is you as the one who owns the business should believe in your business. You should have a well-defined business plan on how you're going to operate. and how you're going to, earn from that business. Because, sometimes it's easy to borrow money to start your business or to do business. But sometimes the hard part is how to repay them. So if you do not know the business or what you are entering into, it's difficult. And me, as in my experience as a banker, I can see through that. So based on the documents that you will submit, we will evaluate that, the business plan, your financial statements, more or less would be able to see how you do things. So that for me, that's one major thing that you should have. You have to know, and you should have the experience to do the business.
Okay, I think from what I hear from you, it's really uh, important that the entrepreneur, the female entrepreneur, knows what she's getting into, is committed to do it, and she will
Yes,
be able to pay at the end of the
yes,
day. The,
definitely, ma'am.
I
Yeah.
have
the,
a question, a follow-up question, Ralyn. How about collateral? Because we know that's always the what do you call it, the stumbling block of a lot of borrowers is when will you ask collateral from the borrower, especially for those who are starting up.
Yeah. Actually, ma'am, banking has evolved through the years. Before, collateral is one of the priority that the banks are looking at. But right now, for me, here in DBP, collaterals are our second way out. You know, it's not the deal breaker or something. What we look at is the project. So we evaluate the project and we see if the project would be able to repay the loan. Because we do not want, any those collaterals are just, they have their carrying cost. When we foreclose, there's cost for the bank and everything. So no, we're not here to, look at the collaterals and foreclose them. What we're here is that we want to look at your project. We want to help you be able to be successful in that business. So project based, that's how we evaluate proposals.
yeah, just
Okay.
before we proceed, I failed to introduce Mylene Abiba, the current president of Women This.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And
And
thanks for that question as well. Yeah.
yes.
So, yeah, I wanted to comment that banks are not in the business of collecting real estate,
Yes,
or
yes,
so that they want to rather be able to collect cash,
That's
in
good to
payment for the
know.
debt. Yeah.
How about
Uh,
receivables? It's a
I'm
follow-up
sorry.
question. How about can they use receivables also if they have a
yes,
project?
ma'am.
Okay, so receivables
Assignment, yes.
included.
Assignment of receivables, ma'am, are part of the acceptable collaterals, ma'am. There are a
All right.
lot, just to name a few. Well, very popular is the real estate mortgage, chattel mortgage. But on top of that, we have the assignment of receivables, assignment of inventory. Those are the acceptable collaterals. Hold out on deposit. So those things.
Okay,
As well
very
as
good.
purchase orders, I assume, or
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
commission.
yeah, because that's also receivables, ma'am.
yes.
Okay,
That's it.
let's talk a little bit about response. Is it? I assume this is. This was a program in response to the COVID impact, correct? And
Yes,
this is also available for women, I assume.
yes, yes.
So, how do you differentiate yourself this response from ILAW? Obviously, the
Actually,
terms are quite generous, with a lot of grace, not grace period, but rather uh, more flexible. Uh, are you saying that we should now all go to response and maybe ILAW will be set aside for a while?
Yes, ma'am. As I have during our previous meeting, right? So for me, whatever is more appropriate, more relevant, and how we would be able to really help, it doesn't matter which program you will tap. After all, the tag it's in the tagging. We'll just if it's a women-run business, they can use the response because right now the terms are far better if you use the response rather than the features, the loan features under the ILAW. But we will still tag that project under the women, uh, like the ILAW, like a sub tag, something like that.
Boots, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Um, there are certain industries that have been identified as really badly hit, more than the others, right? Let's say tourism, the hotel, and restaurant business. Are you doing any preferential treatment for this particular subset of the economy under response?
Actually, ma'am, I can say all of the sectors are really, hardly hit. Most, especially the micro and the small, the tourism industry and all that. So under the response, there's no priority, priority sector. We can actually help, whatever sector is in need, and would respond and ask for the assistance of the Development Bank of the Philippines.
I'd like to add that a lot of schools, private schools, are closing. I think they're also need help. We have some school owners who are really in dire need of trying to bridge finance because of the online delivery of education for this school year. So a lot of private schools are also in dire need of bridge financing at the moment. So we should
I
add
think
that.
that's a very good segue to a question from the chat box, actually. Would you be willing to finance a company which pivots, in her case, from a manufacturing to a marketing business? Because obviously, she cannot continue on the manufacturing business, but now would like to shift to marketing instead. Is that something which would be bankable?
Ma'am, as long as it's clear in the presentation of the business plan on how we're going to is going to support the from migrating from being a trading business, manufacturing into
Manufacturing.
marketing. Yeah. Again, it will depend on the evaluation of the business proposal. So we can finance that definitely.
Okay, there's also another question here. When we apply for DBP assistance, can we go directly to DBP or still to pass through and be endorsed by Women Biz? Maybe Monette we should answer that question on behalf of Women Biz.
Well, of course, we would be at your service in terms of being able to provide you with mentorship and advice for your business, particularly now. But this does not stop you from going straight to DBP. DBP, of course, may ask us for just verification purposes, or if you know any of you that would help.
Yes. We are not a financial institution, but we came up with this program in the interest of women entrepreneurs who need to access funds. Okay.
I have another follow-up question. How about what is the turnaround time from submission to approval? We know that we're already on our 8th cycle since the lockdown of giving salaries to our workers, and a lot of businesses are now at the brink of their savings because they need, of course, to support their workforce in with regards to salary. So what is the turnaround? So how when you're resuscitating in response now, what's the response time? I think that's a better question for the response.
Actually, ma'am, under regular circumstances, the turnaround time is 45 days, business days. So, but that can be shorter. That's the maximum, actually, the 45 days. Because there are, aside from the evaluation of the loan, we also conduct, credit investigation. And with all of the lockdowns and the pandemic, it's making it a little bit, harder for us to gather all of the data and the information we need to be able to establish the creditworthiness of the potential borrower. Also, if there are like collaterals that are being offered, we also have to do some appraisal. Again, the turnaround time because of the pandemic, it's a bit longer. So, but under regular circumstances, the maximum turnaround time is 45 working days.
45 working days.
I think we should qualify that also in fairness to DBP, that is based on the assumption that all your requirements, documentary requirements, are complete. And so
Yes.
we should not go to DBP with nothing or with incomplete documentation and expect them to respond to it in 45 days. So I think that's just a request also on DBP side to make sure that the application documents are complete. Okay, let me proceed to some other questions.
How do we apply? I think there's a question.
Well, there's a question on how can we access ILAW or response for that matter. Do you have a website You have
Yes, we have a yes, we have a website. You can actually visit our website at dbp.ph. There you will see the list of our lending centers. So all you have to do is email or directly call the nearest lending center near you. So
So they
yeah,
go
and
to
then we
the
also have a Facebook page. So yes, you can also go into our Facebook page and apply.
and the lending centers are located all over the country, I presume.
Yes, yes, ma'am. We have 22 lending centers in all the key cities.
Okay.
Uh, yes.
Okay. There's a question here. What is the debt ratio you require for business? I think you kind of answered that. Maybe you want to clarify, Ralin. Debt
Yeah.
ratio requirement.
That
Debt
ratio for
ratio.
business. 70/30 or L for ILAW. That's your that ratio requirement. 30/70/30, 30/70. Ano po? 90% 30/70. So, yeah. I think it's sorry ma'am, I did not is that for the ILAW program?
Yes. Or for
Yeah.
yeah, for the ILAW.
for the
Seventy
ILAW.
thirty. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's 70/30.
But
Is
you can finance up to, am I correct?
90%. Yes.
90% of the project requirement.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So I think it's just fair that the entrepreneur also makes a commitment and makes a
Yeah.
corresponding, takes, part of the risk
Yeah.
in setting up the business.
Yeah. And not
Okay.
only that, ma'am, because this is a partnership, even if, we consider our borrowers our partners. So if we are partners, you also have to have your stake
Mhm.
for it to work.
Okay, I have a few more questions if you don't mind, Ralin. Would you have
Yes.
any advice for women entrepreneurs to remain resilient and survive the pandemic?
Come again, ma'am?
Would you have any advice for women entrepreneurs to remain resilient and survive the pandemic?
Oh yes. With this pandemic, this is the new normal. And this is something that we cannot this is now our way of life. Now if we stop fighting and that's going to be the end of it. There are a lot of good programs that the government is coming up. Now we have a lot of good programs under the Department of Agriculture, where DBP is also a partner. Aside from the programs that the Development Bank of the Philippines has, our sister bank, the Land Bank of the Philippines, also have good programs that all our women entrepreneurs can actually tap. There are actually loan programs at zero interest. There are loan programs with no processing fees, waived charges, and all that stuff. All they have to do is ask. Um, we should not give up hope. We should continue to fight, and we should continue to live and do what we must to be able to survive the pandemic. The Development Bank of the Philippines is here to help and support you. If our women entrepreneurs need financial advice, need help, it can be with DBP, it can be with the other agencies, government agencies. We are very much willing to help, because as a government bank, I think that's our primary purpose. Our primary purpose is actually provide advisories to our women entrepreneurs to help and assist them, go through this, successfully, and to be able to have a successful business despite all of this crisis.
Is there a database where they can get information about all these available programs? I know we've talked about it a little bit. You may want to share about ACPC, maybe,
Ah,
among
yeah.
others.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, ma'am, right now there are the two programs that the Department of Agriculture launched. It's the Kaya, or the Capital Access for Young Entrepreneurs. These are graduates of formal and non-formal schooling for agriculture, where 18 to 35 years old, wherein they can access funds from the ACPC up to 500,000 at zero interest. It's payable in 5 years with a grace period of 3 years. So that's for the young. Then the other one is the agrinegosyo loan program, again of the Department of Agriculture. Again, it's zero interest, no finance charges. It's payable up to 10 years depending on the project. It has a grace period of 3 years. So all of these programs, you can actually see it at the website, I guess, of the ACPC and the Department of Agriculture. So these are two of the new programs that they have launched, which are actually offering a zero interest. So if your requirement is say below 15 million, I would suggest that we use all of these programs because it's zero interest. Now for DBP, if your requirement is more than 15 million, then we would be more than willing to assist your business.
Okay. I think I should mention that it's quite admirable, or rather refreshing, to see DBP itself in the lending business talking about other options, not necessarily within the same bank, but with other government institutions. So it's really quite refreshing to see that DBP is willing to offer other options for borrowers. And I believe at least what DBP requests is that the borrower that is referred by DBP maintains an account with the bank, with DBP, which is just
Yes,
fair.
ma'am. That's
After
correct. Yes,
DBP has led you to this program, at least you can help DBP by maintaining an account, a deposit account with their branches. Okay.
And not only that, ma'am, because ACPC is also our partner. We're both government, so it's just but right that we complement each other. Now, for the micro and the small businesses, especially the startup business, they can actually tap those programs. And no, DBP will be here as your depository bank. Will help you grow. And then once you are ready for a bigger, bigger things, then DBP will be there to assist and support you.
Okay.
Boots.
Yes. Yes, Monet.
Yeah. One of the most difficult things that have happened right now for women entrepreneurs is because of this pandemic, there's a requirement for them to get onto virtual right away. And there's a lot of upskilling that is needed, and actually purchase perhaps of laptops so they can work from home, connections with the internet and all of this. Does DBP have something that can help women entrepreneurs pivot to the virtual arena in terms of their businesses?
Actually, ma'am, DBP as a bank, we are partner. We have a lot of partners, like fintech partners, who are also, who are, enablers. So we have partners like Paymaya who can actually provide, the technology based platforms on how they can do their e-marketplace, which is very important now because of the online selling and all that stuff. We also have other partners. We can actually refer because well, DPP we don't have those platforms, but we have partners who can actually provide those platforms.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask that question, whether DBP would support the digital transformation of small businesses. And it's good to know that you have access to the
Yes,
groups that can provide such kind of. Okay.
just just
Yeah.
if
Is there
you
a question? Yes, that's
yeah.
related to the comment. How does Women Biz PH, how are we able to share our mentorship through free webinars? Or how can we reach especially the inspiring young women? I think
Maybe
that's
that's for you and Monette to answer.
yeah.
The chair and president.
Oo. Well, the Women Business Council of the Philippines is going to be conducting a series of free webinars such as this. This is just a beginning. And one of our objectives is really to help women to succeed, women-led and women-owned businesses to succeed. And I'm glad that the new there's funding that, as DBP mentioned, about young women entrepreneurs. As we know, there are a lot of graduates who graduated this year, in this year 2020, and I best for them to enter a business first, because we know that the workplace is really not conducive to getting new employees for now. So I think that's a good step for DBP, to a good initiative for DBP, and the Business Council of the Philippines will continue to provide the knowledge and the know-how so that we can give technical skills and upskilling, as Monette has mentioned, for our constituents. So that's
Okay.
good.
So there's a question here from if I have an existing loan, can I transfer to ILAW or response? In other words, she's looking at probably at refinancing her debt.
Yes, I don't see any reason why not, as long as the loan is in current status and he's in good standing.
Okay, there goes your answer. And also, this is a very positive response from a lady in Coronadal City. She said that she called up the DBP branch here and got all the requirements. Glad to know that it is not that difficult to access the program. I think that's, very
Wow.
good feedback for DBP, which maybe
Thank
you
you.
can share with President Money later on. Okay, I have this question, which is not really related to ILAW or response, but really, this is something which we've been thinking and talking about. That for institutions to indirectly support women-owned enterprises, not only can they provide funds or access to funds, but is there a way by which DBP will consider a policy where your borrowers, whether the medium or the large corporates, will be given additional consideration if they allocate a portion of the purchases of goods and services from women-owned enterprises? Is that something that you might consider? Because in other countries, there are private corporations, for example, who have committed to purchase, say, 20-30% of their goods and services requirements from women-owned businesses. What we're looking at is maybe DBP indirectly or financial institutions indirectly help women enterprises not only by buying or rather lending them money, but maybe encouraging also their own borrowers to buy from women-owned enterprises. Would you have any comment on that?
I think, ma'am, that's a good that's a good initiative if that is something that we can do. But actually, what we're doing now, especially with the agriculture sector, is we're trying to encourage the farmers and those engaged in agribusiness to do the value chain. Maybe that's something that we can also do, to link actually our small businesses run by women to our, the large corporations, which is also our clients or our borrowers. So that's actually one way of, encouraging value chain. Because we are, me, for one, and President Manny and Sir Paul, we are actually advocates of the value chain because that's how we see how the business can actually grow and be sustainable. We have to link all of these businesses together so that we can help the small ones grow. And then not only that, if we would be able to establish the value chain, lending, rural banks and other banks will be more aggressive in lending, especially to the small businesses, those that are considered high risk. Because if they're connected to a value chain and there are like big brothers or big companies that helping them or getting their produce, it will be easier for the other banks, like the rural banks, to actually lend to them aggressively without collateral and without even, because the repayment is assured. I think that is something, ma'am, that we can,
Maybe, yeah,
discuss.
yeah,
Yeah, we can discuss maybe one of the enhancements that we can do with the ELAW program,
right.
since we are planning to enhance the ELAW to make it more responsive. Yeah, that's a good, good idea.
Maybe we can, Women Biz can develop some kind of a policy
Yeah.
paper
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
regarding this, because this
Yes.
is really a policy issue which
Yes.
hopefully the financial institutions, not only government but even private institutions, will adopt to promote more,
Yes.
to become more gender sensitive and look at the gender lens. This is my final question for Ralin. How else do you think can women based continue to support ILAW, response, or any other women directed programs?
How women based can help, ma'am?
Help continue to help you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, ma'am, I was, listening to what Miss Monette, Miss Mylene, and you, a while ago, and I can see that there are a lot of things that we can actually, work together, especially in the capacity building, especially in the mentorship, because you are the expert in terms of running a business. We at the me working in a bank, more of the financial side, but on the how you really run a business, what should be the right attitude, the right discipline. I think women biz can be our partner in helping and trying to supporting all, especially the small businesses, because honestly they're the ones who really need help. They need all the mentorship, not only the financial, the financial will just come in later, but they have to develop that attitude on how to start their business right. Because, as I have said, it's easy to borrow money. The hard part is how are you going to spend it and pay it
And
afterwards.
the challenges with payment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think thank you for that suggestion. I think this is something we can discuss in the
Yes.
organization and see how we can
Yes, ma'am.
support you in
I,
that respect.
can I add on, Boots and Monette? I think, and Ralen, I believe that we have really started a spark, really, and really helping and supporting our women entrepreneurs and business owners. And I believe that we can showcase the ILAW beneficiaries in women biz in the social media or in our website, so that we can encourage and inspire more women to borrow through the ILAW fund from DBP. So I
Yes,
hope
maybe that will be a follow-up webinar when we actually
yes,
invite some of the beneficiaries who can give a testimonial on their
yes,
experience with DBP. That will actually, it's
yes,
really what you call this, citing best practices.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a good activity, ma'am, to actually have testimonials,
Mhm.
so that it will not be us who'll be, telling the audience that it's a good program. So coming from those who have, who are successful, who became successful because of the program, I think that's a good activity. And we really let me just take this opportunity to thank the women biz for doing this. At this time of the pandemic, we need all of the inspiration, the motivation to go on. And for women based to do this activity is really inspiring. And siguro po, yun nga, let's keep the momentum. Siguro nga po, mas maganda na there's a follow-up after this. And that is, testimonials from those who have, successfully, put up their business through the program and through the help of the women biz. Thank
I
Yes.
you.
actually have one more idea which maybe you might want to consider, because we have industries where women dominate. Okay, maybe we can organize focus group discussions with industry basis, so that we
Yes.
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
understand the unique circumstances, let's say, of
Yes.
tourism, which is badly hit, of course. Then you
Yeah.
have even wholesale retail has been badly hit. So then you can not necessarily tailor fit, but at least you can, with an understanding of what they're facing, you'll be more uh, become
Aligned.
more familiar and
Yes.
align
Yeah.
your
Yes.
programs with it. So we
Yeah. And it's
also,
more focused.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's
actually,
a good idea.
we've I've actually suggested this to Paul. Unfortunately, Paul can't join us, but not in any case. He suggested an FGD, and I said yes with industry groups. Okay.
Yes.
Would you
And
have any last? Yeah, sorry, Mylene.
yes, and since the women biz are all women leaders of specific industries, we can play as big sisters to these as either aspiring or existing women entrepreneurs. We can mentor and as Boots has mentioned on a per industry basis. I think that's a good idea, so that we can handhold them and make sure that they will succeed and also make good repayments to DBP.
Ralen, would you have some
Yes,
final words for us, for the audience?
actually, ma'am. Actually, I just would like to, Sir Paul already texted me and he wants to, send his apologies because of the very weak internet signal. Naka-work from home po si Sir Paul. So, but, he's looking forward to the next activity of the Women Biz. Again, for our final words, we just really would like to thank you, the organizer of this event. It's really our pleasure to be working with you and to actually help the women. You know, I don't know, siguro po kaya mahina yung signal ni Sir Paul kasi this is the women's world daw. So, it's
Hindi mo
strictly
siya
for girls.
dinidiscriminate. Natin
No,
yung
I sabi ko sa kanya, I disagree. You need a male champion. We need male
So,
champion.
hindi naman po sinadya na talagang ito po maging exclusive, parang girl talk, di po ba? Girl talk. So, kaya po yata hindi na nakasali si Sir Paul. But again, salamat po for the opportunity, though our president and our Sir Paul was not able to join. They, there are, sila po yung pinaka, natin, malaking supporter natin sa ILAW. Aside from our director, Lourdes Arsenas, if given the opportunity, she really would like to be present today and give a message. She has done a lot for the women, especially with the in DBP. So maybe in our next activity we can have her,
Sure.
and she can grace us with a short message or also a sharing of her experiences.
Sure.
So thank you very much, ma'am, and stay safe po.
Can we
Okay. I think thank you very much, Ralen. I think you more than made up for your two colleagues from DBP. But let me please extend my thanks to Manny. Unfortunately, he
Yes.
couldn't make it. And maybe Paul next time should get a better internet connection. If you would like his insights as well. I know he has a lot to contribute to this discussion as well.
Yes.
So with that, I'd like to end this Q&A and move over to Monette or Mylene. Thank you, Ralen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, please stay for a while.
Before Mylene speaks, I just want to say that thank you very much. We are going to go straight full blast on our theme for Women Biz, which is to inspire optimism and to create opportunities for women. So with Mylene as president, I'm sure this will happen, and with the full support of the board. Thank you.
Yes. So I'd like to give now my closing remark. We'd like to also announce that we will flash the DBP's website in the Women Biz PH Facebook page, so that for applications you can go directly to DBP and apply for your response funding or your ILAW fund. So I'd like to read my closing remarks for all of you, for all the women and men who are listening and viewing us today. Well, it is important to apply a gender lens to address the socioeconomic impact of COVID-19 to women-led and women-owned businesses, to design fiscal stimulus packages and social assistance programs to achieve greater equality and opportunities for women. The call to action by the Development Bank of the Philippines through the ILAW Fund and the Response Fund will make a meaningful impact on Filipino entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs, which will be vital for recovery and survival in the content of this pandemic. Well, in the home, women perform the bulk of care work, unpaid, and a foundation to daily life. If women are given the opportunity to be part of the economic drivers or formal economy, it will be a driver for transformative change for the gender equality. The Women Biz Philippines and the Development Bank of the Philippines will continue to collaborate to help women succeed. And as I would like to end with a quote to all the women and men out there, always aim high, work hard, and care deeply for what you believe in. Sama-sama tayong uunlad, sama-sama tayong magiging survivors and thrivers in this time of the pandemic. Mabuhay tayong lahat.
Visit.
Thank you all.
Thank
So
you
we-
to all the participants and registrants.
Yes. So thank you very much, everyone. Please stay tuned to more Women Biz free webinars.